So I'll kick off just introductions. I think I met everyone here, but Chet Clem, Josh Kleinman from Foxrock, Khaki Martin from Klopfer Martin Design Group, who's running landscape design for Glendale Park and the open space and the overall redevelopment of 114 Whitwell Street. Quick question, who's had a chance to use the co-organized website since we launched it last week? Who has no idea what I'm talking about?
I'm on it, but I didn't respond.
Okay. So sure.
Oh, you did? Oh, I thought you said you did.
So the purpose there is just to be a continuation of the conversation between every 2 weeks that we have these meetings. And I was interested to see the comments that came in over the past 2 weeks as compared to what we talked about here. It was super informative, and I think what we talked about since was the need to kind of further inform and illustrate some of those questions and topics that came up. So Kaki's done a great job of pulling together some images from her past work. They try to talk about, when we say, dogs in the park. What does that look like? Is it free rein? Is it, and then we'll dive into that a little bit, and then wanted to identify, circle back to the idea of what we can do together on Cleaner, Greener Quincy, which is coming up in early May, as sort of a tangible project that we can make improvements in the park. You may have heard us talking about goats that came up last week about...
Husband like that.
Yeah, so did we. And so we've actually looked into it, found a couple, amazed that there are multiple, but there are a couple operators that will literally bring goats, fence them in, and let them handle the removal of invasives and
It's the
poison
best way
ivy.
to do it.
Yeah.
Without all the chemicals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's a rocky site. So it's hard just even for regular labor, for
Right.
humans to do it. So
And if this winter ever ends and things start growing, we'll be able to release the
absolutely
goats.
clear for them to eat.
Yeah.
And it's,
Zamzow will be so happy, man. Jesus.
it's pretty quick too, right?
They make a huge dent.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know what they will eat and won't eat, but I think from what we saw last...
We have a few photos of some of these companies that we started to learn about that have these amazing before-afters. So we'll talk about it.
It's
show you
funny
some
because
of that,
I
too.
wanted to do it in my own backyard, and my husband's like, that's crazy. But then when he heard about it, I'm
Yeah.
like, that's a great
Perfect.
idea. He's not paying for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, I look at poison ivy and I break out.
Yeah,
So
so does he, yeah.
I'm happy to have the goats do
They love it.
the heavy lifting. And the other piece I want to kind of plant here was that came up in the last meeting around, the purpose of this task force is threefold. It's design, but it's also operations and maintenance of the park and open space moving forward. And it came up with questions about, well, what's both safety and liability and all that. So we're thinking a lot about that, obviously, but we want to be sure that that's informed by this process as well, in terms of not just how heavy a touch in the design, but also what's the required maintenance and operations to ensure this thing continues to feel kept up and clean and well lit as necessary. And I'll kind of hand off to Khaki here, but we heard loud and clear last week that safety is just one of the biggest themes. And we've kind of factored it all looking at it. So anyway, I'll go talk. I'll hand off to
Okay,
Khaki
well,
here.
And I'm gonna sit. Is that okay if I sit?
Sure.
You're standing up front already. So Chet's touched on some of this, but this is sort of just the outline, and again, with such a small group, I think we can kind of roll along as you all want as well. But we want to just sort of touch base on the things that we heard at the last meeting, and also the feedback that's come in, and also just remind everybody that platform is there, and it's really helpful. And I think, as if any of you've seen, Foxrock has been sort of immediately, responsive, and so there's an ongoing dialogue, which is what the goal of that website is, and it's working, so it's great. Want to touch on a few things that have happened since the last meeting that partly, based on things that we all heard. Safety was really the big, we were talking about how really everything, a lot of the feedback that came in could really be sort of under the umbrella of safety, and we want to sort of make sure you all know we've all heard that, and I'm going to talk about lighting and options about lighting, ways of thinking about it. We also heard about connectivity, so we're going to look at a diagram and just a possibility of where might we really want to be thinking about paths and entry points and what are possibilities there. And then again, return to this discussion of program. We heard there were dog people here, there was one voice for play, and then we know that on the website, maybe a little more push for play, but what does that mean and actually look like at what levels are we talking about those program elements? So we want to hear from you tonight on that as well. So these are just some snapshots from the co-urbanized website. So another thing I think that was consistent that we heard is a lot of people really saying, gosh, keep that tree canopy, was another sort of overarching comment we heard. And so actually that showed up quite a few times.
And to add to that, CAD Kicker team did an analysis of the park and wooded area last fall. We're going to expand that once we get some more leaves on just all the trees around the property, and obviously we're trying to save and maintain we can in the process.
Right. So for those of you that weren't at the last meeting, when I did go through that, that's up on the website. So that can be revisited, and that was sort of the packet that our team pulled together to share with Josh and Chet, to just sort of say, here's what we see on your site, and there are some really incredible trees of value here, some wonderful beech trees are tucked in there, and gosh, we think those are important. And that can all be found in that first presentation from the last meeting on the website. And then on the right, which again was put up on the website, but this is sort of our summary of what we heard at the last meeting. We sort of heard feedback on how the park is currently used. We heard feedback on sort of desires, sort of what could happen there, or should be happening more of, and then concerns. And so the sort of safety issue, as I said, really was a constant theme. And really, the question we want to pose tonight is, what is the best balance of all these program features? They aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, but when you start combining them, there are precautions or sort of strategies you want to take, so that it's not just a free-for-all. So anyway, that's kind of the way we'd like to kind of frame the discussion, is what's the right balance of these various program elements, the kind of running list that we've heard about. We're going to touch on safety and connectivity first, and we heard, that there are some undesired uses going on and around the park. Somewhat, we all think it probably is related to the fact that you can kind of hide in there during certain times of year, and that, as I mentioned, the tree canopy is really imperative, keeping it as much as possible intact, and that there are these sort of we sort of use the term cow paths, right? So these sort of desire paths that sort of move through there. Some of it is a result of some maybe drainage swales, but it's clear, you can sort of tell when all the leaves are out where people sort of have made their way through. And we want to just make sure that paths feel safe and accessible, and lighting may play a role in that. Things that have happened since the last meeting. You guys sent out a landscaping crew this past weekend.
Yeah, our landscaping company went out over the weekend to do a cleanup of the park and identified a lot of dead trees and wood as of branches that they're going to need to come back with someone with more equipment. It got hit like everything got hit this winter, so but they cleared around the grass area around the pit.
It looks good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw them the other day.
The path connection from Colonial came up a few times at the last meeting, that folks are sort of cutting down, sort of moving through and getting into the parking lot here to get to the T, and it seems a little treacherous. And I think the request was kind of made, could there be a better path sort of within the park parcel? We've sort of investigated the current cow path, and you'll see on our diagram, we think there's a possibility of maybe pulling that into the park and maybe making it a little easier to navigate. The landscape goats, as we said, we think this is really a quite viable and possible option. Can't happen next weekend because there's nothing to eat, but anyway, so I think that'll be an ongoing conversation with Foxrock, but it's certainly not off the table. And we'd also felt that the Montessori school that we've heard uses the site from time to time, but they weren't here, and we just thought it'd be great to sort of connect with them and see what feedback they have, and I think to date, we just haven't heard back, or.
Yeah, I'm just double checking my email, but I haven't heard back from, I connected with the office manager there, but haven't had a chance to connect with the head of school. I know they currently use it. I don't think there's any arrangement there, but just wanted to get their thoughts as to how they use it, how they'd like to use it. And I pose that question here, I'm sure you all know better than we do the history of uses. And we heard last week that there had been attempts in the past to get more playground equipment in there, and it just never survived. Is that accurate?
Yeah, Montessori school, I see them, again, it's been such cold weather.
Yeah,
we're
it's
not
been
seeing-
tough, right.
And that's why so many people with dogs, people have to take their dogs out for
Right.
walks, and it's a good place to walk. And why there haven't been many people, because it's been very cold for
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah.
Now, the Montessori school, when it gets warmer, they come down through the park. They seem to maybe come at lunchtime and bring their lunch with them. They play ball, they run around the park. You know, they just play there.
Sort of informal play. Just,
Exactly,
yeah,
informal
that there's an
play.
open space for
Informal
them,
play.
and they can
But
kind of
I'd say
just,
I'd probably see them in the nice weather once a week.
okay,
The kids and
Yeah.
many teachers, and they're in groups and they're playing. And I'm the one who told the story when we moved in. Now it's over 30 years ago.
oh, yes,
So
right.
the neighbors, established neighbors in the neighborhood said to us, please don't make that a playground. We've been there, we've done that. It just didn't survive. It just brought an element of kids, teenagers, 20s, who would come in late at night, sit in the swings, drink it, and that's who used it more than anybody. Now, that's 30 years ago. One of your comments is from Trish O'Donnell, and they live right next door to me. And if they're in, I'm in.
Yeah,
They've got two little kids.
Okay.
No, they're right, Tricia, not mine. Yeah, so, I mean, if they're in, I'm in. I don't have any little kids anymore. I have my grandchildren twice a week. And if it was a park, I'd probably take them down there and use it. But that was just past history of what happened with past neighbors. So we never pursued it. Our children, our kids would all go down and play ball down there. But that was the extent of it. They'd play soccer, they'd play baseball.
yeah.
My personal opinion, 2-year-old, is, you know, playgrounds are great. But it also would potentially be a destination, right? You have people coming from outside the neighborhood, parking in front of the park is a problem, that's a very narrow stretch of road. And of course, you know, at night, turns into other uses versus play.
He was told us that was the primary.
Yeah,
I'm talking 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think so. I feel like the playground up on Whitwell is very underutilized.
Yeah,
I don't want to say we better use the city's resources to expand that
Yeah.
versus.
Now, do you go across there from where you are? Will you make it
It's
up?
a bit of a walk. We had in the past.
Yeah.
Some days, but yeah, that's.
if that were a little more, if there was more there, I mean, actually, there's a lot of clearing and not a lot of equipment, is my observation.
Across from the front of the hospital.
Yes.
Well, and if this becomes an established route to get them to people, right now you have to go
Right,
mimic and around.
yeah, yeah,
So it's kind of a
Yeah.
circuitous.
yeah,
So if this became kind of a straight shot, I think we absolutely make use of that.
yeah.
You gotta stop with people keep the same use.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and
Make
we,
that
so we've
decision
been,
if you want that.
that's
Quincy
right.
has a lot of great parks too. When my kids were young, we used to go to Caddy Park down along the beach because it was cool, it was
Yeah,
shaded.
there's-
It was summertime,
Breeze.
the beach, there was
Yeah.
always a breeze, so we would go there, there was plenty of parking. And we also walked, we were on Furnace Brook at the time, so we walked to Quarry Street, we walked up to Whitwell Street, we walked to Burns Army. So there was a lot of
Yeah.
playground options in
Yeah.
the city,
Yeah.
from from
Yeah,
where I
you were,
lived.
yeah.
The other thing, my son goes to Dexter Southfield over in Brookline,
Uh-huh.
and they have an art center at the bottom of the hill, and their school is at the top of the hill, and they have this woodsy area. So they built kind of a natural playground, and it's kind of like wooded paths, things so the kids can discover bugs and birds.
Yes.
And they have hammocks, and,
Yeah.
I mean, that's more, it's on private property, it's not strangers walking through it. But it's kind of nice to have a natural setting. So if the paths through the woods were cleaned up, I know my kids used to love to walk through the woods and explore. And
Yeah, and I think that's really valid, and I sort of, in the last presentation, actually had some imagery about that, because I agree with you that the site sort of lends itself to
a
a
natural
maybe different type of play experience, so I agree with that. Okay, let's see what else we have in here. So, we already said the spring cleanup has started. We know there's a little more work to do. As Chet mentioned, some of the larger storm damage still needs to get cleaned up, but Foxrock is on it this spring. So this is sort of the list that we kind of came up with, again, hearing how the feedback from the last meeting and what folks have written online. These sort of 4 key issues around connectivity and paths and trails that we want to look through the parcel and sort of see what's possible in the wooded area. That we want to sort of improve the connectivity into that wooded area and through it from the surrounding neighborhood. And that this Colonial to Glendale to MBTA is clearly used every single day and is not particularly hospitable at the moment, the way it is now, folks cutting through the parking lot. That clearly the new development sort of up on the hill is going to, connecting up the hill will be important. And that also we're going to, Euclid is on our radar, certainly that's another important MBTA connect route. So this is a diagram we showed last time, and it's just sort of to remind everybody. So just to orient everyone again, we're here at the neighborhood club, and there's Euclid, so we know folks kind of make their way down and through, and there's that connection from Colonial. And again, the diagram from our sort of analysis, which really shows and analyzes all the varying slopes of the terrain, and also these sort of lines, the blue, the red, and the orange, are showing kind of these natural swales and where people are kind of tending to walk now. So we kind of have that mapped out. This is this existing connection, from Colonial down into the club parking lot. And then this is the diagram of really these sort of possible options that I just sort of talked through. So again, we're here, here's the parking lot to the neighborhood club, here's Glendale, and here's Colonial. So we've talked about this connection, which is sort of happening somehow in here, and thinking, well, maybe it's possible that a connection could be made within the park. Folks were pretty vocal about saying that there's been sort of a lot of evidence of dumping and kind of issues coming over onto this edge, and so maybe putting in a fence. There, I think, had been a fence here, but getting a fence back in here on this edge might be an idea.
Do you see dumping in there?
We have, we walked through. There's actually still some snow from them dumping snow over the winter back in there.
No, okay.
But
Yeah, this just seemed like we did the cleanup last year. There was trash.
A lot of anecdotes of sort of construction stuff. So I don't know.
Well, the neighborhood club built a patio, and their extra stuff got dumped over there. I don't know if they ever did anything with that. There was
Yeah,
like a big
someone else brought that up. Yeah.
stones, so, I mean, I haven't seen it because it's been covered with
Yeah,
snow,
right.
but it was there in the fall.
Snow does cover a lot. And these blue dotted lines really are sort of mimicking the lines, or the, excuse me, the paths that I mentioned in our analysis are these sort of natural sort of swales and paths that people tend to take. So from up higher on the slope, on the sort of colonial side, and then of course the Euclid side. As they are now, of course, they don't meet, you know, the standards for a fully accessible, formally accessible path. So, you know, we might look into how an accessible path might happen. That can all be resolved. It just needs length, which is why you see this dash line taking a sort of zipper approach. And another sort of part of the diagram here is this sort of pink path, which says, you know, there may be an option where an accessible route happens as just sort of a route to take that sort of starts and stops in a similar, you know, spot down low. And this is more of a diagram. Again, this isn't sort of fully figured out, but that it might be a route that you might take if you're just not up for steeper terrain, but it gives you a walk into the woods. It might be shorter. That's another way to think about an accessible loop to experience the woodland. So those are the sorts of ways that we're starting to think about this, you know, this sort of idea of connectivity and moving through the site. And a couple of images of what that could feel like. These are obviously, you know, big, huge, dramatic forests, and it's not exactly what we're dealing with. But I think more the point is, in some cases, the path will really very easily be able to follow the terrain, and in other cases, you know, we will need to use steps, stairs to navigate it. So that there would probably be, you know, a combination of those strategies. So that's really what I'm trying to diagram. But also that, you know, particularly on the right, there's this feeling that there's very, very low vegetation, but mostly it's really just big trees, and there's not that in between, which is what we're talking about, is the buffet for the goats. Lighting, we heard a lot about also at the last meeting. We understand this is sort of the only lighting out there at the moment,
And it
pretty
really
much.
just lights the
And
parking
it
lot.
lights the parking lot, so it doesn't really impact the, so that's what's out there now. You know, path lighting can take a lot of different forms. These images are really just about saying, well, these have wood poles, which, and this is quite a wide path, so it's not exactly comparable, but it's more saying, gosh, there are options where lighting can be done, so it's not like downtown Quincy Center, right? That this site would be, sort of support a different kind of character of light. But then also really maybe it's just down at that sort of path light level. There are downsides to this in the New England climate and some big snow and storms, and they do get buried. So there's a little bit of balancing act there. So there are pluses and minuses to these different options. But again, these are sort of wood, fairly subtle light fixtures.
But a piece of granite, I mean, they put the light on top of a piece of flimsy granite.
That's right.
If these lights are under snow, that means the paths will be under snow.
Well, that's a good point.
So probably nobody will be coming through.
That's a good
Actually,
point.
the
I
paths,
personally prefer this to.
Yeah, the low, yeah.
And the people from Monroe last time did
I know, they
say
don't want,
that they don't want to look out their windows
And see
lights.
what was once the beautiful nature.
right,
of the park.
now it's full of
All of a
lights.
sudden have street lights shining out.
Understood.
So this, I think this is lovely.
Yeah. And I think that snow, falls in Chet's bucket of operations and maintenance.
Absolutely.
It's one of these things that if Foxrock's willing to sort of open up the site for, a commuter route, what the implications of that are after a snowstorm and all that sort of stuff. So that's sort of on the radar
the
for.
pathway through the woods was better in the winter because of all the overgrowth. You couldn't get through the woods.
Yes,
And
no, I
then when
bet
it
you can
snowed,
see, you could.
there was a path.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, I didn't, because that's the first time, after
You
it
can
snowed,
actually
was the
see
first
the
time I ran
clearing,
there.
yes.
So- And there were, all the poison ivy, all the overgrowth was buried under the
Yep.
snow. So there was a path.
I told everybody at the last meeting that because our photos were actually the next door, so this was the day that this is what it looked like when I went out there.
And
And
that's
we
what-
had an intern who just started, it was his first day, and I wasn't sure if he was gonna come back the next day, but we helped each other down the hill here, but yes, I mean, this is what it looks like,
Yeah.
yeah.
But in the winter, you can actually get in there
Right,
and
right.
drive around.
Yes, so, this is the goat fed right here.
But I had looked at the Colonial Ave cut through a handful of times before, and then I went back after the last meeting and noticed that there's lights that someone
Yeah,
put
somebody
up.
put up solar
Yeah.
lights.
Solar lights, yeah, exactly.
It's
Just
nice, and they put up a rope for the railing
That's
where
right,
it's
and it was
steep,
in those photos, I
which
think
helps
it's just,
in the
yeah.
ice.
right.
Yes, right. So these are a couple of before afters, from a couple of these goat groups. So you can see this group of trees is this group of trees. There's the fence they come in and put in. The goats are in there chowing down, and that's the after. And similarly, you can match up this image on the left with this on the right with that tree, and really see the difference.
Once foliage is there a subsequent step to actually work out that structure for a lot of that?
What these folks recommend, what they say are very clear to say is this is not a one-shot deal. That it really will. They work on helping the client team with the timing, when the right time is to do it. But they do say it's probably something you would do three growing seasons or something. Maybe depends on where it is and all that sort of thing. But their rule of thumb, I think, is that so you just keep getting at it. But I think even if what you're saying is needed, the good news is goats allow the site to be even seen, to be able to know how to take what appropriate steps would need to be taken. So the last item here was really this returning back to these program elements that were under discussion, and the trails really are another layer of that, which we've already talked about. We heard, actually, from this list, I think, online, a couple people said, or someone said more kind of active recreation. These are just sort of images to kind of jog thoughts and ideas that someone said, well, everyone using the picnic tables are the dog walkers. We heard that last time. But, would it be, and we heard a little bit about, gee, it'd be great to host the block party in there, or, so what, and maybe if Montessori's coming and having lunch, that they too, use picnic tables. And then this question about, dog, what degree of dog accommodation is the right thing. So on the upper left is, right nearby the Avalon, and that's, fenced in and has I think a synthetic surface, double gates, and even little, trick, whatever. These things, I think, for dogs to
The
run
Avalon
through.
development over on
On Quarry Street,
Quarry.
because they allow dogs up there.
So this is maybe if we were considering making half of the flat land fenced in for dog walkers and their dogs.
Yes.
And then the other half of the flat land would be where the picnic tables are, for people to come and play.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, they're a lot, or, which I think is what's happening now, is this more sort of de facto, people kind of gather here, come and go with their dogs, which is, I think, more, what you see in the other two images. Clearly, in the upper right, this is a dog park outside of Worcester, has gotten enough wear and tear and become such a location that the turf isn't really growing anymore, and so this really is being used heavily as a dog park. And then this image is really just to sort of say, well, if the trails get cut in, and is it really just a place to come walk your dog? just like, you know, anyway.
Is the city building a dog park up on Quarry Street? Is it supposed to build a new shelter, a canine, the police canine training
You know-
facility, and a dog park up there?
You were jogging my memory. I heard about that a few years ago.
It was like
and
when
I
it first
forgot.
was proposed, it was
That's
$12
how long
million.
it's a shame. to see
Yes,
that
it's
stuff.
been a while that it's.
But I think they have the money
Oh.
appropriated, and I think they have the land, so I think it's
Should be moved.
going forward.
Yeah, that's happened and they approved that already.
Yeah. I
And
just,
it's right. It was it's a shelter, right? It was like a
it's the
shelter.
the animal shelter,
Shelter.
a canine training for the police, and a public dog.
And a
park.
public dog park.
The dog park actually might be separate. That might just be the shelter.
But it's in the same
Yeah.
piece of land, so it's part of a group.
Part of that development.
I feel like,
Well, I have a dog, but this particular park, I like just walking through the woods with her, and then we kind of walk through there and then go on to
Uh-huh.
walk other places.
Uh-huh.
There's, on Pageant's Field, a lot of people meet and let their dogs run around and play. Yeah, it's a large space, Quarry Street, dogs play there, and there's no designated dog area. I think most responsible dog owners know if there's kids playing baseball,
That's right.
Right.
you know,
You
let
can,
your dog run.
yeah.
There's always one.
Yes, right.
But I've seen like a limited fixed area.
Yeah,
And then-
but
and
there's
then-
places,
and Dog owners kind of know when it's busy or not, because they do a routine.
yeah,
And so if there's a need, maybe there's flexibility, but
right.
but for the liability or safety, then maybe it'd be
Yeah.
leashes or, like, we would hate to see a new product get destroyed, but
Yeah.
free for all, eliminate people from coming to it. Maybe a little control.
Like having the bags, which you already put there.
Right. Having
Barrel
those sorts of
to make
accommodations,
sure
barrel and bags,
To
encourage
encourage people
good
to clean
habits,
up
yeah.
after their dogs.
and sort of leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
does the wet well field get heavily used?
I used, when my dog was younger, I'd go up there in the morning, and if you go early in the morning or later in the evening, there's not children playing up there. So there used to be probably 4 maybe up there in the morning. So I think Pageant's Field is the big.
The dog owners, yeah. Dog
Is the
owners
park
get-
gonna be private or is it gonna be public? Like, are you still gonna own the park? It's not gonna be like the city's gonna own the park.
No, it's gonna be private property that we're gonna maintain.
I mean, cause I was thinking that the other day, like, think about it, like, if you, who takes their dog to someone's private property to go to bathroom? You know, I can see taking it to city property, but to make it liable, like, I was thinking more, have you been to the Marymount Association at all?
No.
It's kind of like, Mark Sauter runs it right now, he ran for school committee, but it's kind of like, sort of private, where they, you know, that's, you know, I was thinking maybe doing something like that with it, where, because I'm not sure what your liability is, you know what I'm saying? Because what in a dog park, if someone gets bit, are they gonna sue you guys?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a great question and one that we're considering, and I think that's why we're informing what this means. And when we know that, to your point, like, this is private property. The park was included in the parcel when Foxrock purchased it 18 months ago, or whatever it was. But we very quickly understood and learned the history of this park and the current use by the surrounding community. So that the purpose of this is to inform that further, to determine how we strike that balance that respects the historical uses and ensures that this is a good balance for people in the community, both current community and neighborhood and the development on top of the hill to come. But, because I have a dog and I have 2 one-year-olds. I would never go to the upper right park, right? Nor do I take my dog to the upper left park. I'm always looking for
A
place-
nature.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
place to
But they're
go.
leashed,
Yeah.
yeah, leashed.
But I live across the river in Weymouth, and Stoddard's Neck is the
Yeah, I
upper
was gonna
right.
say Stoddard's.
And right across the street is Bear Cove, which is
Yeah.
more
Right.
the bottom. So it's what the balance is.
And a lot of people in Quincy go to Stoddard's Neck,
Right.
or Pageant's Field is another big. But it's usually early in the morning and, you know, off times, I think. It's my, I mean, I have a dog, but that's usually when I take, if I was gonna take her to a park to play with the other dogs, it'd be early in the morning
Right.
or later in the evening.
I've lived in New York for a long time, and there was a park that from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. every morning with dog off-leash hours. And then at 7 o'clock, it wasn't even policed. There's just the dog owners knew, like, we gotta respect this, leash them up, go, then it becomes playground for kids.
And is the Glendale Park big enough to divide up like that?
Well, that's a really good question,
Yeah.
and I think that's the kind of thing we're gonna sort of test out to
Right.
bring back to you for the next meeting.
Right.
We're just trying to get a sense, I think that if, you know, if the upper left, it seems like, you know, you're identifying even more of these places than we even knew about, and that there are other ways in which dog owners are sort of, you know, going up to Whitwell, you know, off play hours, and it's all sort of working itself out. Maybe it's, you know, leaning toward that sort of upper left is just not, we don't need to
Yeah, you
kind of
don't need
pursue
it,
that
yeah.
further, we don't need to pursue that further, and that, it really seems to be working as it is, and maybe, anyway, so that's sort of what we're trying to find, like, where in these, where in the scale are we falling on these things, and, you know, and how are you all feeling about it? It sounds as if, I'd say the dog owners who were at the last meeting, who use the parcel now, seem to feel that the way it sort of was working now
It's okay.
is okay, and there's not conflict emerging out of that.
I don't have a dog, and I have no problem with the
Yeah,
dog using the car.
yeah.
But as it becomes a more attractive car,
Yeah,
that might
that's the
draw more
thing.
It's a
people
good-
to.
Right.
Plus the scale of the park, I don't think really
Yeah, it's,
supports more than one dedicated use. Right, so it almost has to be integrated.
Yeah,
So that probably excludes the huge playground, excludes a huge dog park.
yeah, yeah, well,
Obviously,
that's
those
a good,
things could be worked in, but
sort of goes to the next slide, which is sort of touching on play again, and I loved your comments about the sort of nature play, and again, I had that, a bunch of that in my last presentation, but we also heard someone saying they brought their grandchildren or something, you know, there's some sledding possible this winter.
yeah.
The upper left is, you know, you can see sort of short basketball hoop, and that basketball is sort of sitting really in a park space, so it's sort of not, when we say basketball, it doesn't always have to mean full basketball court. It's gonna have a bunch of college kids playing on it or whatever. The bottom right is sort of what we were talking about with maybe the way it sounds like that Montessori is using it, that open space just allows them to kind of have free, kind of unprogrammed play, and there's a lot of value in that too, right? And then bottom left is a more sort of traditional, you know, playground space, which is maybe more similar to what's up on Whitwell. But you know, particularly if it's geared toward, you know, 2 to 5 year olds, that would come with a fence around it. I mean, you know, so that folks are feeling comfortable that their child's not dashing out on the street, and that's really the standard, you know, routine now. And so that does start to, just like the dog.
And it invites the dog people. in, 'cause
Well,
it's
it does.
fast.
In some places it does. In some
Yeah.
places it really does. That conflict arises,
Mhm.
and so it is. It's sort of striking the right balance. Is really, so again, on clay, where there's this continuum of, you know, the sort of bottom right to maybe bottom left, and you know, where folks want to sort of land in that regard. Also knowing that there are other city playgrounds around, and I think we did hear last time as well, like, if it becomes too much of an attraction, is that bringing in parked cars all along the road, and so that was voiced at the last meeting as well. So that's sort of, you know, I think,
But I think avoiding redundancy is a really good point you made earlier, which is let's not solely focus on this, let's zoom out a little bit and look at everything around us.
Yeah.
what's where and how far away.
We certainly wouldn't want to add a, you know, candlepin bowling to the development, but you can get it here, right? Or
A bocce-
tennis, where
a
you can go to
bocce court
the,
would be
or
nice.
the tennis club.
Well, and the wood, well, you know, it's maybe some of the, it's not, some of the equipment's maybe not the newest, but that park right now seems to be supporting dog people and play, actually.
Some people have both, so.
Yeah,
it
right,
works.
right.
It works for them.
yeah.
And actually, I walked my dog through there the other day, and there's, similar to the Glendale Park, there's all kinds of paths behind it,
Yeah.
like wooded paths, and I was like, I didn't know this existed before. She kind of dragged me down, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. So it's nice to have little things to, I don't know.
It's a little bit more public than,
Yeah, except for down in the back. So,
Well, that's super helpful. I mean, I think we talked a lot more about dogs 2 weeks ago than I expected.
Oh.
Like I had heard from the HHNA board when we first heard it, like, you know, those dogs, sometimes they don't get picked up after, and that was the extent that we talked about dogs for a year. So it kind of threw me a little bit, which I wanted to unpack it more today and kind of illustrate what that might look like. And I think it's, you know.
do you think it's improved since you because you guys put the bags up,
Yeah.
right? When we just moved here about less than a year and a half ago, so we just recently started using it. But I don't know, but it seems, I've never seen a problem down there, but there's
Yeah.
bags there.
I haven't seen much of a problem when I go and
I
check
don't know
on it,
about
but
it. Yeah, I can't speak to the
yeah,
bags.
I think it's when there's a bag there, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
And I've found entirely anecdotally that dog owners are the best enforcers of it. They just want it to stay clean. So
I think, just about materials, I know like when I see like the inclines of the hills, like I've been other places where it said there needs to be like elongated paths just to get up
Yeah.
that thing, but is that limiting what you could use for those paths or the thought of what could be used?
Well, there is some ledge out there.
Okay.
So, as we know more about path alignment and how long really it would need to be, and that'll help us figure out where the material, you know, what the material options are. That slope is very steep up at the top, and you know, it may require sort of structured walk, in fact, for part of it. It might become, you know, there might be times where it's on terra firma, and there might be times where it has to. We don't quite know enough yet.
Just like seeing places where they've had some material, then they've gone back to more sterile, but it's like, but there's some areas where they don't specifically need to have a structure.
Yeah.
Putting it back and forth,
Yeah.
maybe the straight line, you might have to have a structure just to get through
Yeah.
another path. That would be nice for something other than asphalt.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But
So
I can't see
it
those,
may be that has to
the
be
blue
kind of,
stone going up through, I can't see blue stone going up there. But it's,
right.
I just don't know what the options are today. It's been like.
Yeah.
like,
Well, and I think that's right. I think also what you're saying is, which is why I sort of pulled in those light images that are wood,
Yeah.
that we, as much as possible, want the materials to kind of feel of the place, right? That
But no,
we're not going to have red paving all of a sudden
Yeah,
out
because
there.
like in the Blue Hills, people of all walks of life go up there.
Yes.
But there are certain places where there is certain structure, but a lot of it is natural and it works.
Yes,
You
right.
don't hear like trouble with like people falling down and stuff like
Right.
that.
Right. So there might
But I
be
mean,
a need for a
But I
combination
understand
at times.
that just a nice meandering way, and then just like little milestones, like certain, like you gotta have transit, it could be anything but, I don't know, like a little granite thing, just for fingers. Granite's in my head.
Yeah,
put the
yeah.
granite on
Well,
the
granite.
good reason. We're plenty.
But it's just, I think
You
like,
can probably dig it up on the hill.
you know, but it's
Yeah,
people
right.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what.
that what it gives, like people they just enjoy, like, oh yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a great thought. So,
your take on the transition from Glendale Road? Right now, there's a fence, there's a couple beaten down grass areas where
Right.
people walk in.
Right.
There's no sidewalk there, which is, probably saw my comment. It's a little tricky to actually cross the road to the park.
Yes, oh,
Because
so
it's
you,
on a
about the
curve.
crosswalk
Yeah.
and, right.
And that road.
Just seeing a crosswalk and stop the
Yeah.
traffic cones.
So in the past, we actually had extended discussions about that road being prone to speeding, right? So we've had the city install speed limit signs, children play area, crossing signs area. Signs on it, so much, right? So,
Right, those were really helpful comments, and again, gets at this sort of larger context issue, so that's really helpful, and I think in my, I sort of, I skipped over the comment, but I have sort of similar questions as you do about, what should this fence line be, and I think these guys, it was you stepped
I mean, it
in
was-
wanting to show,
It was one of Quincy's hottest spots to contract tetanus when we bought the property.
Oh.
I joke. I mean, it had been hit by snowplows
Oh, the
and
fence, okay.
shovels, and so we just ripped it out and put in like a coated
Fence,
chain link just to be safe.
yeah.
But it was never intended to be the end-all, be-all solution for that.
Could they extend the sidewalk from, because there is a sidewalk beyond the park, right? On
it
that
actually
side?
ends at the other side of the neighborhood club.
Right,
And
it's
neighborhood
up,
club kind of has a
right.
little island.
Yeah, but what
the
about going
driveways.
up Glendale? Is there,
I
doesn't
don't
it,
believe there is a sidewalk on that side.
I don't think so.
where
Down- you mean
where the
this
next
way?
house is, there's not a sidewalk
Yeah,
in
no, I
front
think
of
it's,
there?
it's strictly
Next
on
house
the
is
east.
Margie's
I
house.
think,
I think there is a sidewalk, there is a sidewalk, yeah.
I think the sidewalk starts.
It's
Oh,
right
okay.
after the
Yeah.
park, yeah.
Okay.
Because couldn't they
There's
just?
just no sidewalk at the
at
Is
the
that
park?
right?
It's funny, I don't know because obviously I don't walk there, because
Yeah.
you can't go
I
anywhere.
walk there a lot, that's
Yeah.
my
I thought
route. You can walk all along the neighborhood club, there's a sidewalk in front. And then there's the neighborhood club parking lot.
right,
And then there's no sidewalk again till the other side of the park. So you have to cross the street there. You have to.
Or walk in the street, which.
Or walk in the
isn't
street,
good.
which is often what I do,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, which is
But
a
there's
good
plenty
idea,
of-
because that's also where the cars are coming down the hill and they're getting faster.
There's plenty of
I know,
room.
it would be nice if there was a
I'm
sidewalk.
trying to
Maybe
get-
the city should do,
And the people across the street from here never shovel. So we're truly in the winter when there's no sidewalk and
yeah.
that whole.
They're not there.
well, we'll look into that.
walk.
So in other words, you're really just talking about getting
Especially
sidewalk
when there's no
at the
sidewalks
park
early in
frontage.
the mornings, because I do walk that park a lot.
I don't know if like streets are graded, if they're up to code, maybe it might be a look,
Yeah, then
looked
like the
at,
city-
and say you might have to be forced to.
No, I don't think we'll ever ask the city for some poor kid, I don't know.
Well, and maybe they just wouldn't do it anyway because it was a private parcel.
Maybe.
And so they come up as far as their jurisdiction and they stop.
I would donate that land to the city and they will make that a sidewalk.
Quite a number of years, the city did mow it.
Huh.
Quite a number of years. I was on their park schedule.
Uh-huh.
The rest of the city, they had a schedule that they would
Come and do.
Glendale Park, just as often as another park would be.
There could be some back and
Mowing,
forth.
they come in with the big
Yeah.
machine and mow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that probably went on for, no more than 5 years, maybe.
Yeah, when they built the quarry apartments up there, it was back and forth about who's
because they
taking
had
care.
added the sidewalk
Right,
up
and
there.
then they decided, well, for the city's benefit, we'll do it and stuff like that. So if they say it's so beneficial to the city, we may do it.
Yeah.
Or just establish a crosswalk. I mean,
The crosswalks are very idea.
the,
And there's a sidewalk to the crosswalk.
well, and around
Yeah.
Cambridge and Somerville, you see a lot of the raised tabletop.
Yeah.
Problems.
As it-
Really work to slow
Well,
down.
that's
do.
what they've done in Quincy Center too.
They do.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of bigger scale, but.
Yeah, but I mean, It helps, it slows
It
people
does.
down.
I didn't realize that that was where the sidewalk broke.
It's not so apparent because just
Yeah.
before it is the parking lot of the neighborhood club.
Yeah, I'm-
So is the sidewalk end of the neighborhood club, you're not so much aware of it
I
because
see,
it goes
yeah,
into
yeah,
the
yeah.
Picks
parking
back
lot.
up, yeah.
But at that point, there, you have to cross the street, or as Patty says, walk in the street.
Yeah.
The whole length of the park, there's no sidewalk, and it starts again as soon as the park ends.
I missed that too. So that's,
I think what comes next is Margie's driveway. So the park,
There is a-
Margie's driveway, and then the sidewalk.
right, the
It
driveway's
picks
right
back up.
here.
There are places that are bolted out.
So that's great, that's really helpful feedback too. So to sort of answer your question again, I mean, I do think that, thinking about arrival points, what's the extent, you know, what should the extent of that front fence be? And maybe,
You know, even if the front fence, if the fence is going to be changed anyhow, if that just went in a foot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not even a sidewalk, but that would, and people would just stop walking on there,
Yeah.
and that would trample
Yeah.
it down, and it
Yeah.
would just become
right,
a sidewalk.
yep. But it's true to keep it, possibly being plowed. So yeah, we'll look at that. Great. Any other sort of topics or things that folks want to return to or feedback based on images we looked at or things we discussed? I think we're hearing low key on the dog, right? Maybe don't need a fence from the group tonight. So preference for the lower lighting, which is what we've heard before as well. And on the play, I think, you know, yeah, it's really this sort of, if we sort of map out the context and how much sort of playground play is there, and what are the distances, and
And what's
maybe
available.
that also is really managed, and that this park just sort of is a different, doesn't need to offer that.
If anything's non-traditional play there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that may be why the,
You're
Mon-
thinking fun all.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, actually, yeah.
it may be why the Montessori school likes to go there.
Well, I think that's a
Because they
great,
have a
Generator
play
of
space,
fun,
yes.
generator of fun.
They
Is
have
it-
they have a playground up at their
I
school,
think they have some play structures,
or something outside.
Yeah. but maybe they like it
They come down
because
just
it's
for
a
the
natural.
open space.
Yeah,
Right.
it just,
because they're just as close to.
these
Woodland,
are some
so-
images I showed at the last meeting, and this is a park that we did in Brookline. And these are these sort of custom, these are just made out of black locust, wood play structures. And you know, this is really a bunch
That's
of
fun.
kind of cut up different logs, really sitting in a very similar site. The image on the right is sort of making it a little more formalized, but you can see there's no bright colored play equipment here. It's all on wood and is really about sort of exploring.
No fighting over swings.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. So, anyway, those up too.
I think we've covered all of our slides, and so the one thing I mentioned is the cleaner, greener Quincy. If anyone has ideas, I don't know, I know what happened last year, despite almost getting rained out. We got some stuff cleaned up out of there, but I don't know what's happened in previous years, so.
Focused on
Yeah, we got that triangle, which looks
the
great.
next, it does look
The
great.
flowers have
Right
come back.
Next to the neighborhood club. is
Yeah.
where
It
you
does.
were in Glendale.
Yeah, we were-
I was working down at the island.
How about getting like a 20-yard dumpster or something for, you know, that day, so everyone can just fill
Yeah.
it, you know?
Yeah, I
what
think we took probably 5 pickup truck loads full of stuff to the dump last year. And there's some cleanup that we need to get done as the trees get cleared out. But yeah, we'd love to know what's happened, what the interest is, and what's been fixed about it. And really, like, my bias is towards what feels like a distinctive change after the day. Like, I'm trying to focus last year because we knew we could finish it.
Maybe that's one end of the park. Keep walking up Glendale, and I was talking about Margie's house, which is the first house after the park. That's all.
Because
That's all.
yeah,
So this is her house, right?
yeah,
She's
So
probably
here's the
65.
club.
She's
Yeah.
probably 65 Glendale.
it would be right there.
Let's see.
So here's the club.
Yeah.
And we have the parking lot down Glendale. I think she's just the other side of the park.
Right.
So, sorry, you can sort of just see the faint outline of her house here.
Yeah.
And there's her front walk.
Yeah.
And so you're
And that
saying
end of the park
this,
is-
this corner.
If she was here, I'm sure she'd speak to that. Years ago, when we had a lot of people really cleaning the park, we'd have 20 or 30 people every day. People would always, some people would take that area, but I bet it's been the last 10 years, we probably had 10 to 15 people cleaning last year, there weren't even that many. And we just concentrated on the main flat layout.
Yeah.
So nothing until last year when you did that section, nothing has been done into the wooded area at all, I'd say in 10 years.
I mean, I think to John's point, there's just a lot of picking up that needs to happen in there.
Yeah.
And the more manpower we can have in there, the better, I think. So if it's picking up trash, if it's targeting certainly, we don't need to decide right now. I just wanted to pose that question of,
Years ago, I would drop flyers at all the houses in the village. Say, clean up. We actually, I think I said this last time, we started that before Clean Green.
Oh, really?
We were cleaning the park before Clean Green ever started. And then we became an official Clean Green.
Yeah.
2 years ago, we were listed in the paper as an official place. But you know, we were always allowed to go to the city and get the rakes and the bag, because they were happy to have anybody cleaning anywhere.
Right.
But yeah, it's been a long time since we've gone into the woods.
sure.
But you have all the flatland all in very good shape, right?
Yeah,
So the people who come, they're going to want a project to work on.
Exactly.
Right. So that might not be a bad idea, as last year you concentrated on looking at the park, the right-hand side, maybe concentrate on the left-hand side.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, as
Just a thought.
I mentioned, I'm a huge wimp with poison ivy, so Will and I had met there first.
He is too.
And we, exactly, so we
He
were
is too.
fully aligned, and we found that was the triangle that we didn't see any.
Yeah.
Because you get up a little
Yeah.
bit
Yeah,
west,
it
and
gets-
it's boom,
Yeah.
and
yeah,
on that
so
hill.
that might put a squelch on that.
you only need
Maybe-
one
It's
sunny
steep
day.
real quick. I know.
Maybe it's steep there, it is steep there. Maybe next week, if weather allows, we can do the 6:30,
Yeah.
walk over there.
Let's do that.
That's true.
What would have to occur as an improvement from the drive connection path? Is there a lot of underbrush there? I don't really want that there.
Well,
Or is there
Well,
just garbage
again,
that needs to be done there?
everything's kind of overgrown. I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see it emerge again now that we sort of have an understanding of, you know, how important that is to the neighborhood. On the plus side, what's great is it's sort of moving along contours in a way that's different than, you know, this sort of move, just having needed to go straight down, so the slope is shallower here, so that's, you know, on the plus side, that's a big plus. But I'm sure there's not insignificant clearing that needs to happen there too.
I think it kind of crosses 3 parcels. It hits the road, it's the cities, it cuts the corner of our parcel, and I think it hits the neighborhood club. It kind of skirts that edge.
You're talking about the path.
The
Yeah.
existing one.
Because I looked at the map on the GIC, and it looks like it's all parkland, looks like it's a straight
Oh, is it?
line. That's what it looked
I-
like to
'cause
me
I-
on that GIC.
Yeah, I need to go back and look.
Is it GIC or GIS, whatever?
GIS, yeah.
How do they get through Colonial? They go through someone's private land on Colonial?
No, it's,
No,
It's
Colonial
part of
just
the city
stubs, it kind of
stops.
stops right there at the tree line.
yeah.
Okay.
And the pavement just stops and then the
And there's
path
people from
cuts down to
like
the parking lot.
Adams Street, like on the other side of Adams, I see a lot of people walking to the T that way in the morning. Besides just Colonial
So they're sort
Drive.
of doing,
Talking about the park, Mike,
doing this.
We had a whole,
we had a comments from Trish.
Oh, you know what? She's coming through the land base or when she comes.
And
That was a good question. She said she wants it to be a playground.
you can tell that that path in particular is well used because
We're looking at
it's
your
worn, there's
comments.
no
it's just, it's
overgrowth.
totally, yeah, it's down to
About
mud.
the park,
My comments, playground.
yeah.
People are anti-playground, I'm pro-playground.
Well, I'm not anti-playground at all, and I said if Trish is in, I'm in, didn't I?
You
did.
did.
Playground.
I said if Trish is in, I'm in. But
Don't you wanna bring your grandkids to a playground?
if it was there, I probably would.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm all in, and I'm saying this is a long time ago. When we moved in, over 30 years ago, the older neighbors begged us not to put a playground. They
Really?
said, we've had playgrounds, and it just attracts the older teens and the 20-somethings at night drinking, but that's 30
We could be drinking in the
years
woods
ago.
now anyways.
We could just put up.
Sorry, I don't know. I just-
Drinkers, please go into the woods.
Yes. Okay, well, my kids are upstairs. They'd be at the playground though if it was one. Did Mike walk up?
Mike went through.
Okay.
Like I said, to your point, I think part of it is, I think the path we've identified, it differs from the path that is current, right? And trying to find a great handicap
Maybe
point
that's
that
what it is.
it doesn't
It's-
feel like that's following the path of water, right? Just the shortest, least
Yeah.
resistance, whereas we may seek to find a flatter path that's more gradual and better suited for a pedestrian cut through. So I would hesitate to
You might add 30
maintain
seconds
the
to
current
it,
site,
can you?
the current
Yeah,
path.
I guess my thought was for clear greener, you can just focus on that area, so
Yeah.
at least you have the garbage there.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Along the
It seems a
parking
little
lot.
Along
treacherous.
this edge, yeah.
Go.
Yeah, right, well, that's true.
Or along the parking lot. Is that what you,
Yeah,
that's the
that
parking lot, okay.
Well, I think we're 2 weeks out from Cleaner Greener, so we'll do some thinking and identify what with our team as well. And we'll plan to meet in the park at 6:30 at the next
Now,
event.
do you, tonight, here I know is another thing too, Eric sent out, I was out all day, when I came home, I said to Will, my husband, I said, nobody's getting a notice about the meeting tonight, nobody's got, I put all three on my calendar, but I'm a very organized person, the whole world is not like that. So I bet, most people don't even know there's a meeting tonight. Eric sent out something, but I wasn't home till late.
Sure.
And Will tried to connect to Eric, and it was about 5 o'clock that Eric sent something to all the members saying, don't forget meeting tonight. at 6:30."
It was listed on the city website all week.
Yeah, I mean,
So, I
I
mean,
didn't say
it
it, but
was-
it's on me. I was on the same schedule as Eric, I think. It was coming off the week of Patriots Day yesterday and just
Yeah.
behind schedule,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until 5
Yeah.
o'clock that I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I didn't send a
Yeah.
reminder.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we'll
so
get ahead
that's
of it.
fine, I'm sorry to have dragged you all out, we just, a
No,
few of us.
no, I mean, this
No,
is super.
It's
I-
actually lovely having a small conversation.
It's great to have a small conversation and important to have different people in the room
Yeah,
at
yeah.
every time. So I think that's.
Yes, but a reminder would be great, even just Eric and I know remind everybody else. Yeah, and maybe we'll say if it's good weather, it's going up into the 50s.
Woo.
Yeah. We could probably go in and have a look, and everybody can see where they think would be a good place for that, you know.
Yeah.
And also, we have to keep this in mind, this was something, because when we started cleaning the park, there was no cleaning green. But all of the people, like the Woods now, they go to the school, they go to the Vermont School where their kids go. And that's where they go, that's where the Lees go,
Yeah.
people with young people, school-age kids, they're going to their children's
support their
school
school.
to do their cleaning.
Makes
So,
sense. Well, I, of course, have to be out of town that weekend this year, so I'm tacking other people on our company to be present for that. But we're gonna mobilize some folks, and I think we, Hines, who does the landscaping for us, that was out there over the weekend, with some direction in advance, can clear some stuff out of the way. And So any thoughts?
So you
that
think
come
if we meet 2 weeks from tonight and kind of establish where we think is a good place to?
Yeah, I mean, I think anything that comes up ahead of time gives me more time to have Heinz go or bring.
So that'll be a Tuesday and then committee brings on Saturday.
Is that Saturday?
Okay,
Yeah.
We'll do it.
Maybe. We can certainly try, but let's do this. If any ideas come up beforehand, please just shoot me a note.
About particular areas to.
Yeah,
meet and
particular
about.
area, particular
Okay.
things to do.
All right.
Otherwise, we'll make sure
Okay.
that on
So
Tuesday
we
we
all
set
kind
that
of walk
plan.
around that way, we'll,
Yeah,
Um,
definitely along that.
we'll look.
The missing side.
The missing sidewalk, I'll show you it, missing sidewalk.
Any other questions, concerns, ideas, thoughts before we break for?
And, you know, as always, oops.
See, that looks lovely, doesn't it, on the.
I can get pictures of that other park that I was telling you about at the school.
Yeah, I would love if
And
if
find
that's
out who did it.
that's super helpful.
Yeah.
Anything that you feel like is fitting.
Yeah.
It's easy to identify things that aren't fitting, but anything that we feel like is fitting is
Yeah.
super informative.
Once you get all that kind of good layer of growth out, would you have to actually cultivate the ground cover, or would that just be natural? I'm just looking at the picture there.
Yeah, no, I think what'll happen is, you know, if we can kind of keep the invasive species down, and get that, my computer's going crazy here, sorry. That it, you know, things will sort of start, more light will hit the ground, and things will start coming up. But I think that's another kind of conversation is, you could take an approach where, you know, in a few key locations, maybe related to a path or something that, you know, maybe there's some strategic planting of ferns which sort of spread and naturalize, and you kind of do a few key moves and then let it go. You give it a little bit of help, for example. So there's, again, on the continuum of things, you could sort of do a little bit of that. You know, what are some, a little bit of planting of just New England native, perennial low stuff that kind of, when happy, sort of takes,
Yeah.
does its thing, and you kind of don't need to.
Like those little purple flowers that are.
Yeah,
growing.
they naturalize, yeah.
And then it stays green all summer, I think.
Yeah, they bloom and then,
Just out of curiosity, was the goat idea, was it cost effective as opposed to having chemical spray?
Enough
or-
so that we are seriously considering it,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
just because I think it's uniquely appropriate for both the terrain and the challenge.
Right.
I'm again extremely biased as long as I don't go there.
Let's say
As
you-
long as it's not me going in, it's cost
Oh, good,
effective.
yeah.
But no, I think we're gonna run it out, and then they're gonna come in the next week and give us an estimate
Yeah.
and get more specific about
Could
the
have a
timing.
pet, a petting zoo for the goats, for the kids.
Yeah, because you said they're big on like engagement and letting the kids.
Yeah.
They-
That would be.
they
out,
really,
so.
you know, that's what was such a
It is
great
fun.
discovery, is that we're not old grumpy goat people. They are happy, outgoing goat people that like sharing the
goats.
news of goats. Yeah, so they see that as part of their job, as a sort of, you know, outreach piece. So it's really,
Anything to cut down on chemical use. is,
yeah, it's
uh,
really
a plus
important. It's
factor,
really
yeah.
important.
What is the alternative? Going there with
Chemical-
ton of Roundup and.
Well,
Yeah, Roundup.
you know, or just manual removal, which you know, with knotweed is almost just literally impossible.
Right.
And then it can
It's-
get airborne and then it
Yes.
spreads someplace else.
Yes.
Actually, let's say promise not to use Roundup, okay?
Yeah, I'm not a
So-
fan of that, but
Yeah.
and you can't, I mean, there's places down south, they burn that stuff out, but you don't wanna aerate poison
No.
ivy, because the oil gets in.
Yeah.
No, so it really is, and the steepness of the site and the rockiness of the site, you know, makes it more expensive for just you know, labor. So goats don't, that doesn't bother them.
Are we gonna buy goats or will we rent them?
No.
Rent.
Rent the goats?
Yeah, yeah,
Gonna buy?
yeah. Unless you get really attached to one, then you can kind of make an offer.
Bring your own goat.
Well, if it works here, you know, we can use them in other parts of the city, you know what I
That's true.
mean?
Well, the school, like Barzani's, riddled with poison ivy.
Yeah, it's scary actually
Yeah.
in schools, it's really scary. Boston, and I need to find the article and send it to Chet, but a summer or two ago, Boston experimented with this and had great success with a lot and brought in a team of goats and, so it is being used in a lot of places.
Give it a try. All right, well, the site is always live. My contact information is up there. Anything that comes up in the time between, please reach out. It's already been helpful just to tap other ideas and info. So,
I'm impressed how quickly you respond to the comments.
I tried.
I agree.
And it's very
Doing
thoughtful
amazing.
response too. It's
Amazing.
not just thanks for
It's-
your comment.
It's usually
You can
rush.
tell you read them.
It's usually get the comment, rush home, get the kids down, come back, and comment. So. And I mean, I think the platform itself is super interested. They're Boston based, and
Yeah.
we talk with them, and they're excited to see it.
Hi, Arthur and Joan. We're talking about the park, what we should do with the park. Do you have any comments? Arthur and Joan live a little bit up
keep it-
President's Lane.
Oh,
Keep it park-like.
keep it park-like, that's
Keep
good.
it a park, just like it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are
What are the other
representatives from
options?
Foxrock, I mean,
Oh.
architectural landscape, ideas.
It's a great area.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks nice now, doesn't it, with the new picnic tables there?
Yeah. Good luck.
Thank you.
Bye, John, bye, Arthur.
Bye.
Yep.
All right. I think the
Thanks,
next one is
everybody.
May
Thank
1st.
you.
So much.
Thank you.
See you again in 2 weeks.